Let's kick off this chapter, and therefore this lesson, by going into our working folder and opening up Photoshop 101.psd if you'd like to follow along, and I hope you do. In my opinion, this is probably the most important chapter in this entire title. Now, we have fun chapters, we have chapters on color correction and all kinds of fun things. But in my opinion, you will never master this program until you master selection. It is a keystone skill. A keystone skill is a skill that impacts everything else. I've been using Photoshop for over 20 years, and I use it every day in the industry, not just to teach it. I doubt if a day goes by that I'm not required to make some type of sophisticated selection. If I do it correctly, people believe the changes that I've made. If I do it incorrectly, people will go, oh, he photoshopped it, and I don't want that to happen. Now over here, you have all kinds of selection tools. You have marquees and lassos and magic wands. Up here, if you go to the word select, you can do things like select by color. Lots of different ways we can make selections. The goal in making a selection is looking at what you need, understanding all the tools you have available, and saying to yourself, what tool or tools in combination will allow me to make the best selection so it doesn't look photoshopped and I can do it in the least amount of time. That's my goal. That house, that's Gramps' house. Every 10 years, like clockwork, he painted that house. He had the number of the color at the hardware store. They would mix up the paint. He would take it home, get on a ladder, and paint it. 10, 15 gallons of paint every 10 years. I used to beg him, choose a different color. Today we're going to choose a different color. But in order to do that, we have to select the areas that need to be changed. If you come over with your paintbrush on an unselected document and begin painting, you can do anything you want to. There is nothing restricted to you because you are using an unselected document. I'm going to press Control-Z or Command-Z on a Mac, undo. If I pick up a selection tool, it doesn't matter, and you guys know this. I'm saying to the computer, that's the house, that's the paint on the house. Those are the areas I want you to change. And if I come over here and pick up a paintbrush again, like I said, you know this, the only area it's going to change is the area that is selected. That's why this is a keystone skill. Let me press undo again. I'm also going to do this. I'm going to press Control if you're in Windows or Command if you're on a Mac and the letter D for deselect. Now, this lesson is not about the techniques of selection. It's about what you can do if you make a really good selection. I already have some selections made. In the rest of the chapter, we're going to talk about how I made them. Let me move layers over here. Pull that down a little bit. That exposes over here my channels. Over here in channels, I've got shed, house, and sky. And if I click them, you can see there's a mask representing where the shed is, including the areas even around where the grass comes up on the shed. I have another one for the house. Now, the house is just the paint. You can see just those areas. The windows in that wouldn't be painted, so they're masked out. And then the final one's the sky, including even the trees. Those are the selections. Now, I made them. It took me a couple of minutes to make them. We will talk about how I made them. But let's just have some fun now that we have our selections and look at the possibilities. Let's go back to RGB. Okay, I'm getting excited already. I'm going to change the color of that house. Now, the best way to make this a selection again, because right now it isn't, is hold down the Control key, and that is the Command key on a Mac and Control in Windows, and click. Boom. The areas that are white become selection, just as if I had used my lasso or something and made that selection. It's ready for the change. I come over here, make sure I have the layer I want to change selected. Come down to, say, the half moon icon. This is not the only way you can do it, but it's probably the best. And go into something like Hue and Saturation. Now watch the selection when I click Hue and Saturation. Now, it looks like it went away. In reality, it became the mask for the adjustment. If I Alt-click on the mask, that's Option-click on a Mac and Alt-click in Windows, you can see it's the same thing that was over here, but it's now over here. Let me go ahead and Alt-Option-click that again. I'm saying to the computer, I want to do some adjustments. I'll click right here, and here's my adjustments. But the only area I'm allowing you to change is the area I had selected. And if I do it good, it's not going to look photoshopped. Go to Hue, change it around a little bit. We could give it a little bit more saturation, I think. I'm sure Gramps is not happy. We changed the color of the house. But because the selection was done quite well, if you didn't know the house wasn't that color, you probably wouldn't say that's photoshopped. Now we can turn it on and off right over here. This is totally non-destructive editing, and that's important, because if you do change your mind, all you got to do is get rid of that layer. So we've got the house changed. Actually pretty easy, to be honest with you. Let's move on to the shed. Now this is where the tractor went, and that's the ruts that it made pulling back into that shed. The shed's kind of dark, isn't it? Let's see what we can do about that. Now that means we'll come back down to farm here. I will Control or Command on a Mac, click on shed. We could lighten that up, but you know what? I want to get rid of the shed. What do we do here? Number one, in order to do what I want to do with the feature I'm going to use, I need a little bit more expansion on that shed, make it a little bit bigger. So with the selection there, I'm going to go up to the word Select and go down to Modify. And one of the options is Expand. And I'm going to expand it out about 6. Actually, that should be enough. It's the last number I used. Click OK. As you can see, it's a little bit bigger, just a bit. It's going into the grass and it's going into the sky. Go up to the word Edit on the pull-down menu and go down to Fill. In Fill, one of your options is called Content Aware. Now you have other things. This is the one you want. Now what it's going to do, it's going to look at that shed that we're going to get rid of, or fill, if you will, and it's going to say, what would have been behind that shed? And I want to tell you, Content Aware gets better every time they come up with a new version. So cross your fingers, click OK. That's amazing. We got rid of the shed. Let's try our luck again in getting rid of the ruts here. Let's pick up our lasso tool. I'm going to get right about here. And let's draw ourselves an area around here, just like that. Go up to the word Edit and down to Fill, and just click OK. That is amazing. It really looks like we literally got rid of that shed. We painted the house. We got one more thing to do. I want to change the sky. Now, if we come down here, let me turn these off for a second. I have a new sky. This was taken in Alaska, and you've got these kind of like mare-tail clouds, and that's what I want. So let's go back and turn on Farm and turn back on Hue and Saturation. Let's come over here and Control-click on Sky. When I made that mask, there was a shed here, and the shed's not there anymore. And basically, it thinks the shed is there. I need to include this part in the selection, so doing one thing impacts something else. I'm going to pick up my Magic Wand tool. It has a tolerance setting. We'll talk more about that later in this chapter. The tolerance setting is how tolerant it is of a change in the brightness and color of the pixels before it stops selecting them. Now, we got a pretty solid area here. I'm going to leave the tolerance at 12. I'm going to hold the Shift key down and click. And it got it. I'm happy with that. Now, I want to make a mask on here, so in case I change my mind and I don't like that sky, I still have this one. I don't want to delete it. To make a mask, we need to select the areas we want to show. So we go up to the word Select and go down to Inverse. Now, with Farm selected, go ahead and click this button right here to make the mask. A little circle in the square. There you go. That's not too bad. So we got rid of the shed, we changed the sky, and we recolored the house. If I Alt Windows Option Mac click on that button, it will turn everything off but that one, and we can see the before and we can see the after. This chapter is about selection. These are some of the things that you can do if you've got good selections. So we're going to talk about how you make good selections.